you look at me?
Back off! Leave him alone!
This is your fault!
He's just a kid!
The little girl's eyes were haunted, hollow with a grief no 7-year-old should know. As Jake Matthews knelt before her in the rain-soaked park, he had no idea that taking her small, trembling hand would connect him to one of the most powerful women in the country, a woman who'd been searching for something she'd lost long before her daughter went missing. If you're touched by what happens next, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us how fate can change everything in a heartbeat. The rain fell in sheets across Westlake Park, driving most sensible people indoors on this miserable Tuesday afternoon. Jake Matthews wasn't among them. His shift at the construction site had ended early due to the downpour, giving him a rare chance to pick up his 10-year-old son Ethan from school himself instead of relying on after-school care. "Dad, can we get ice cream?" Ethan asked, splashing through puddles with deliberate steps, his backpack protected under Jake's oversized jacket. "In this weather?" Jake laughed, the sound warm despite the chill in the air. "How about hot chocolate instead?" They were cutting through the park, a shortcut to their favorite cafe, when Jake noticed her. A small figure huddled under the slide, arms wrapped around her knees, soaked to the bone. Something about the stillness of the child made his heart stutter. "Hold up, buddy," he said to Ethan, who followed his gaze and frowned. "Is she okay, Dad?" Jake approached slowly, careful not to frighten her. "Hey there," he called softly. "Are you all right?" The girl looked up, revealing a tear-streaked face framed by dark curls plastered to her cheeks. She couldn't have been more than 7, wearing a private school uniform now ruined by mud and rain. She didn't answer, just stared at him with those enormous brown eyes that seemed to hold the weight of the world. "I'm Jake, and this is my son Ethan. Are you lost?" A tiny nod. "Where's your mom or dad?" Her lower lip trembled. "I don't know. I can't find her." Jake knelt down, rain soaking through his jeans. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she whispered. "Lily Chen." "Well, Lily Chen, how about we get you somewhere dry, and we'll help you find your mom. Would that be okay?" Another nod, this one accompanied by the faintest glimmer of hope. Jake removed his work jacket and wrapped it around her small shoulders. As he helped her stand, he noticed the quality of her uniform, the kind that cost more than his monthly rent. Whoever her parents were, they had money. The kind of money that made him nervous about getting involved, but what choice did he have? Leave a child alone in the rain? "Dad makes the best hot chocolate," Ethan offered, moving closer to Lily with the natural ease of children. He put cinnamon in it. The cafe was warm and smelled of coffee and pastries. The owner, Maria, raised her eyebrows at the bedraggled trio but quickly brought towels from the back when Jake explained the situation. "Should we call the police?" Maria asked quietly while the children sat at a corner table, Lily wrapped in towels, her hands curled around a mug of hot chocolate. Jake nodded. "In a minute. Let her warm up first." He sat across from Lily, keeping his voice gentle. "Lily, can you tell me your mom's name? Or maybe her phone number?" "Her name is Alexandra Chen," Lily said, her voice stronger now. "But everyone calls her Alex. I don't know her number. It's in my phone, but I lost it when I fell." Jake's hand froze halfway to his mug. Alexandra Chen. Even he recognized that name. Everyone did. Tech innovator, philanthropist, one of the richest women in America. Her company, Chen Tech, was revolutionizing renewable energy storage. Her face was on magazine covers, her name in headlines. And her daughter was sitting across from him, covered in mud and drinking hot chocolate. "Your mom is Alexandra Chen?" "Of Chen Tech?" he asked, trying to keep his voice casual. Lily nodded, seemingly unimpressed by her mother's status. "We were at the art museum. There were lots of people. I wanted to see the butterflies in the garden exhibit, but Mom was talking to some people. I thought I could find it myself." Her voice dropped. But then I couldn't find her again. I got scared and ran outside to look for her car, but it wasn't there. And you walked all the way to the park? Jake asked, calculating the distance, at least 15 blocks. I got on a bus, Lily admitted. I thought it would take me home, but it didn't. Then I got more lost. Jake exchanged a look with Ethan, who was watching Lily with undisguised fascination. A 7-year-old navigating public transportation alone, it spoke of both resourcefulness and desperation. We should call the police, Jake said. Your mom must be worried sick. Lily's face crumpled. She's going to be so mad. No, honey, Jake said, reaching across to pat her hand. She's going to be relieved. The responding officers arrived quickly. Jake explained the situation while Lily sat quietly beside Ethan, who had taken it upon himself to show her his collection of Pokémon cards, kept safely in a waterproof case in his backpack. Alexandra Chen's daughter? Officer Rivera repeated, eyebrows raised. There's already an APB out for her. The entire force is looking. Will you take her to the station? Jake asked. Protocol would be yes, but... Rivera glanced at Lily, who was laughing at something Ethan had said, the first real smile Jake had seen from her. Ms. Chen has specifically requested that once found, her daughter be kept wherever she's comfortable until she can arrive personally. Would you be willing to stay with her here? Ms. Chen's security team is already en route to your location. Jake hesitated. He had dinner to make, Ethan's homework to supervise, laundry to finish. But looking at Lily, he couldn't bring himself to disrupt the fragile sense of safety she'd found. Of course we'll stay. 20 minutes later, the cafe door burst open, admitting a flurry of dark-suited security personnel who scanned the room with practiced efficiency. Behind them came a woman Jake recognized instantly from countless news stories and magazine covers. Alexandra Chen was tall and striking, her sharp business suit at odds with the frantic expression on her face. When she spotted Lily, something broke in her composed facade. Lily, she cried, rushing forward. Lily's head snapped up. Mom! She scrambled from her chair and ran into her mother's arms. Alexandra Chen dropped to her knees, heedless of her expensive suit against the cafe floor, and gathered her daughter close. I was so scared, she whispered, her voice thick with tears. So scared. Jake stood awkwardly, suddenly aware of his rain-soaked clothes and work boots. He placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, preparing to slip away quietly, when Alexandra Chen looked up at him. You found her? She asked, her dark eyes, so like her daughter's, searching his face. In the park, Jake said simply. We just got her warm and called the police. Alexandra stood, keeping one arm firmly around Lily. I don't know how to thank you. No thanks needed. Anyone would have done the same. She shook her head. No. They wouldn't have. She extended her hand. Alexandra Chen. Jake Matthews, he replied, shaking her hand briefly. And this is my son, Ethan. Alexandra smiled at Ethan. Thank you for sharing your cards with Lily. She loves Pokémon too. Ethan beamed. She knows all about the rare ones. An awkward silence fell. Jake cleared his throat. Well, we should get going. Glad everything worked out. Wait, Alexandra said. She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Please, take this. I'd like to thank you properly. Jake hesitated before accepting the card. Really, Ms. Chen, it wasn't. Alex, she corrected. And I insist. Not just for finding Lily, but for making her feel safe. Her voice softened. That's worth more than you know. Jake didn't call the number on the card. What would he say? He was a single father, a construction foreman living paycheck to paycheck in a 2-bedroom apartment. Alexandra Chen moved in circles so far removed from his that they might as well inhabit different planets. Life returned to its familiar rhythm. Work, Ethan's school, weekend soccer games, the constant juggling act of single parenthood. He thought about Lily occasionally, hoping she was okay, but the incident began to fade like a strange dream. Until 3 weeks later, when he walked out of the construction site to find a sleek black car waiting at the curb. The driver stepped out. "Mr. Matthews? Ms. Chen would like to speak with you." Jake's first instinct was to refuse, but curiosity won out. The back door opened, and there was Alexandra Chen, looking somehow both perfectly at ease and completely out of place against the backdrop of the half-finished building. "You didn't call," she said without preamble. Jake shrugged. "Didn't seem necessary. Lily's been asking about Ethan. About you." She hesitated, something vulnerable flickering across her face. "Would you and your son join us for dinner?" "Nothing formal, just a thank you." That dinner changed everything. Held not at some exclusive restaurant as Jake had feared, but at Alexandra's home, a stunning penthouse with views of the city that took his breath away. Ethan and Lily disappeared within minutes to explore Lily's extensive game collection, leaving the adults in an awkward silence. "I'm not very good at this," Alexandra admitted, pouring him a glass of wine. "Social situations outside of work." "Me neither," Jake confessed. "Especially with billionaires." She laughed, a surprisingly warm sound. "Is that how you see me? The billionaire? Isn't that what you are? Among other things." She studied him. "You're uncomfortable with money." It wasn't a question. Jake took a sip of wine before answering. "I'm uncomfortable with the distance it creates. The different worlds. And yet here we are, in the same room." That night, as they talked over dinner, Jake began to see beyond the public persona of Alexandra Chen. She spoke of growing up in a small apartment with immigrant parents who worked multiple jobs, of scholarships and student loans, of the early days of her company when she slept on a futon in her office. Success had come through brilliance and relentless work, not privilege. And she was lonely. She didn't say it directly, but Jake recognized the signs, the way she watched Lily with Ethan, the careful distance she maintained even while being personable, the subtle hunger in her eyes when she asked about his life, his friends, his community. Lily's father, he asked carefully over dessert, while the children were engrossed in a video game in the next room. "Not in the picture," Alexandra said, her voice clipped. He wasn't interested in fatherhood. Or marriage. Or anything beyond his own ambitions. "His loss," Jake said simply. She looked at him sharply, then smiled. "Yes. It is." That dinner led to another, and then to a Saturday at the zoo with the children, and then to a pattern of shared meals and outings that defied easy categorization. They weren't dating, Jake wouldn't presume, and Alexandra never indicated she saw him that way, but they were something. Friends, perhaps. Two single parents whose children enjoyed each other's company. Jake learned that behind Alexandra's public success lay private struggles. The constant scrutiny. The isolation of leadership. The challenge of raising a sensitive, intelligent child in a world that saw her primarily as an heiress. "I worry about her all the time," Alexandra confessed one evening as they watched the children build an elaborate fort in her living room. "That she'll never have normal experiences. That people will only see her as my daughter, not as herself." "You can't protect her from everything," Jake said. "I know. That's what terrifies me." As summer approached, Alexandra invited Jake and Ethan to spend a weekend at her beach house. Jake hesitated, aware of crossing some invisible boundary, but Ethan's excitement made refusal impossible. The house was beautiful but not ostentatious, perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. The children disappeared to the beach almost immediately, visible from the deck where Jake and Alexandra sat with coffee. "I have a confession to make," Alexandra said suddenly, setting down her cup. About the day Lily got lost. Jake turned to her, curious. It wasn't the first time she'd run away. Alexandra's gaze remained fixed on the children below. She's done it 3 times in the past year. Never for long, never dangerously, until that day. Why would she run away? She seems happy. Alexandra's hands tightened around her cup. Because of me. Because I'm never there. Because when I am there, I'm distracted, always working, always connected to the company instead of to her. Her voice cracked slightly. The day you found her, we were supposed to be having a special mother-daughter day. But I took a call. Then another. I was talking to investors while she wandered away, looking for something interesting because her mother was too busy to be interesting. Jake was silent, absorbing this. When I realized she was gone. Alexandra shuddered. I've never been so terrified. And when we found her, with you and Ethan, she looked happy. Comfortable. Like she belonged. Kids are resilient, Jake offered. They adapt quickly. It's more than that. Alexandra finally looked at him. She needs what you have with Ethan. Real connection. Presence. I've been trying to give her everything except the one thing she actually needs, my time, my full attention. You're being too hard on yourself. No, I'm not. Alexandra's voice was firm. I built a company that's changing the world's energy future, but I was failing at the most important job I have. She paused. That's why I sought you out after. Not just to thank you, but because I saw something in how you were with Ethan, with Lily. Something I wanted to learn. Jake felt a flush of embarrassment. I'm no expert. I make plenty of mistakes. But you're present. Fully present. She smiled sadly. That's a skill I had to relearn. Below them, Lily's laughter floated up as Ethan showed her how to build a proper sandcastle. The sound was carefree, uninhibited. She's different around you both, Alexandra said softly. More herself. That night, after the children were asleep, Alexandra and Jake sat on the deck under the stars. The conversation flowed easily until Alexandra suddenly asked, what happened to Ethan's mother? The question caught Jake off guard. He rarely spoke about Sarah, finding the pain still sharp even after 6 years. Cancer, he said finally. When Ethan was 4. It was quick, 3 months from diagnosis to the end. Alexandra's hand found his in the darkness. I'm sorry. We were young when we had him. Still figuring things out. But Sarah was amazing with him, patient, creative, always present. He smiled at the memory. After she died, I promised myself I'd try to be both parents for him. Not sure I've succeeded, but... You have, Alexandra said firmly. Anyone can see that. The warmth of her hand in his felt right, somehow. Natural. When she leaned closer, her shoulder touching his, Jake held his breath. I have another confession, she whispered. I haven't felt this comfortable with anyone in years. Jake turned to look at her, finding her face inches from his, vulnerable in the moonlight. Neither have I. The kiss that followed was gentle, questioning, a beginning rather than a declaration. When they pulled apart, Alexandra's expression was wondering. This is complicated, she murmured. Very, Jake agreed. Our worlds are so different. Completely. She smiled. But maybe that's okay, Jake said, surprising himself with his certainty. Maybe different worlds can intersect. The tabloids discovered them 3 weeks later. Billionaire tech queen slumming with construction worker, the headlines screamed. Paparazzi appeared outside Jake's apartment building, his workplace, even Ethan's school. I'm so sorry, Alexandra said when she called, her voice tight with anger. My PR team is handling it, but... It's okay, Jake said, though it wasn't. Ethan had come home confused and upset after being surrounded by photographers. "We'll weather it." But the storm intensified. Anonymous sources claimed Jake was a gold digger, that he'd orchestrated the meeting with Lily, that he was using Ethan to manipulate Alexandra's maternal instincts. The construction company where Jake worked received so many calls that his boss pulled him aside, concerned about the disruption. Maybe